we see a generation growing where we say, well, you can't trust this or you can't trust that. You're Black in America, and so you have to watch out in every aspect. How do you navigate that when it sounds like the people in your life, that wasn't the issue. It wasn't the things that they were thinking about the most. Do you trust people first until they've lost your trust, or do you walk in cautiously to every situation and every relationship?
It's funny you say that. I legit right before we got on this call was thinking about trust and how do you trust people. So it's funny because all my cousins, with me being the youngest one, I used to believe everything that they said. So like they'll play little jokes on me and they all be in on it, and I'll be the one that, like, growing up. So it made me be hesitant, because even though it was jokes, it just made me be hesitant on what I believed.
All right, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast. Today is one of those days that you're going to want to listen into the entire show today. You're going to want to make sure that and I think there's going to be some gems and there's going to be some things that are inside of this podcast that are going to help you to move forward. I'm talking to somebody who's in their 60s and 70s that have a lot of experience, or I'm talking to somebody who's in, like a couple of days ago, I talked to somebody going and becoming an entrepreneur and making stuff happen. What's really unique to me, and then, Jillian's our guest today. I'll introduce him in a second, but my last three guests from Michigan. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what's been in the water there. In fact, the guy I interviewed today was from Flint. We think about, okay, what did the water do that's putting out people? After we hear all the things that go on, a Navy vet that is a ski instructor, Julian. He runs buses. He does a golf instructor, and he's like, a lot of people don't do this. Used to race motorcycles. Just this incredible man that came from Flint, Michigan. And so, and then the last one was a younger kid who, was moved in when he was 8 or 9 here. But it is, I'm finding that, I'm from Colorado and, have visited Michigan many times. Just, there's some people there, and you're one of them. And so if success leaves clues, folks, today's podcast will highlight and magnify some of those things. And so I'm going to let Julian tell his story, but, just professional speaker, as somebody who motivates crowds, somebody who understands the dynamics of human relationship, is able to, to a person who is an introvert that is believing that they can't do something, to talking to somebody who's on fire. He has an ability to motivate fire. And so, like I said, you guys are in for a major treat today. Thank you, Julian, for being on the show. Thank you for taking time out of your day, because I can't get back, and for you to spend the time with us on the show today is just a blessing. So please introduce yourself. I tell people they can start from wherever they want. They feel that their story makes difference, because story is everything. It makes a difference. And so wherever you'd like to start, you're on.
Well, first, I want to say thank you for having me. I appreciate you for even considering me to interview me. I think I'm interested enough to interview, so I appreciate that and have me on here. Well, I'm Julian Gueringer. I was born in Detroit. I was raised in Pontiac. My parents split when I was 5, but I had both of my parents in my life, so it's not like one of those stories where the dad just disappeared. My dad was from New Orleans, spends half his life in Detroit, and that guy was like, fully in all of his kids' life. So I will say, me and my mom, we moved to Texas back in 2008 when the market crashed and Michigan got hit hard, so we moved out there. I was in Houston, Texas for from '08 to 2012, and then we moved back here around. Yeah, I moved back here in 2012 as like 17, 18, and or no, 20. I was turning 21, and I just had to figure it out, figure life out on my own. My dad was in Detroit, my mom was in Houston, and I was in Pontiac, Michigan, just trying to figure it out and just bumping my head, going through all the bumps and bruises. I was into music, so I was traveling a lot in my late teens, early 20s doing music. Uh, a lot of people don't know that about me. Like I did shows with Pusha T, Juicy J, that Verb, just different big artists and different festivals and all that. And then I started selling merch to make money because those shows, I mean, I'm not a headliner. They only pay you a couple hundred. So between me, my DJ, and you know the crew, you get peanuts. So I started selling merch, and that's how I got into the clothing game. So that was around 2012, 13, 14, 15. I got into the clothing game, and that's just been it. Like I've been in car sales my whole 20s. I've done music merch, and then now I'm in the clothing game for the last 5 years of my life. And then I even jumped into the mortgage industry, helping with mortgage brokers, LOs, real estate agents, and so forth. So it's interesting to see where my life took me or taking me, and it's interesting to see like where to go moving forward. But that's me in a nutshell. I'm a dad of a 2 year old, so I know we had that talk. I was like, hey, I'm trying to get my little cousin to watch my daughter real quick while I step outside and take this call just so there's no distractions. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell, man.
Gotcha. So, it sounds like you have the entrepreneur spirit, and I don't know, it's working for somebody in a way that, where you can expand who you are, something that you aspire to do. Do you aspire to be your own business owner at some point? When we think about the future of Jillian, what do you perceive future holds, or is it just learning as much as you can and going wherever you can go to get to where you want to be?
Uh, so a lot of people look to me for knowledge. Like that's been my whole life. I'm not saying I've never said I was the smartest man or the smartest man in the room, but I'm always collecting knowledge, and people look to me for knowledge because I'm always a student, and that's one thing. Like, so if I got to be in a work environment to get information, I'll do it. But I do see myself ultimately just like when it's all said and done, blessed enough to live long enough, I'll be my own boss. I'll run my own company fully and living off of it. So, like, I think long term game, even with the clothing brand, I want to get it to a certain amount annually so I can sell it off. I'm in mortgages and real estate, as far as like educating people. And then I want to, I've always had plans of owning multi units and apartment buildings. And like, I just want to be fully like you said, journey to freedom, right? Just want to be free and not and I tell people you will never be free because will you'll be you'll have to answer to something. And if it's not a boss, it's gonna be yourself. And if you don't answer to yourself, then that's a lack of discipline, right? So, but free to me, like so that's why I like this journey to freedom. That free to me is being able to say, let me go pick up my daughter and let's go hang out at 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. Free to me is saying, hey, it's a Wednesday, and I've handled all my business for the week. Let's go take a trip to Chicago, or hey, I just want to go hang with my mom. You know what I mean? Like that's free to me, being able to do whatever you want to do when you want to do it. So that's my ultimate goal, just
Oh,
the
no,
freedom
I
of.
love that. Yeah, I love the thought process of freedom and what it takes to be free. When we think about community, and I know, as I interview more people and I see more people, and we have this common theme of, you know, parents, and then we have, dad. Next, dad is not in the mix, and how do you think, or what things happened in your life that you believed created the identity that you have? Because based on neighborhoods that we grow up in, friends that we can hang out with, uh, you and I both have friends and people who didn't, or are not moving just journey to freedom. They're moving the journey to stuck, or they're moving the journey to prison, moving the journey to bad decisions. What do you think created your identity that kept you away from some of the, we even talked about the music, which can go both directions as well, right? As far as decision making and
Yeah.
rite of passage to, think Billions identity get formed.
I would say, mm, in a pure form, like early childhood, just my family is real loving. So like if you rip away, society influences, you got like the pure kid inside me that just want happiness and peace for everybody. Because that's like I was the youngest. I got a little cousin. She's the youngest girl. Well, yeah, she's the youngest girl, and I'm the youngest boy out the family. My grandparents had 11 kids. They all those kids had 3 or 4 kids, and people might say that it was unfortunate, but luckily I was one of the kids that grew up in that household with all the cousins and all the aunties. So I got all the love, and I got a relationship with a lot of people in the family. So I think that shapes like the pureness or the happiness, the peacefulness that you see. But I think my identity really got shaped around my teen years, like moving around a different age. Like Pontiac is a small city. I want to say it's about 60,000 people. So when you say a north side, east side, west side, south side, it's so small, you wouldn't even think that they have sides. Like that's how small it is. But I lived on every side. I went to almost every school, and then moving to Houston, it just like being in Pontiac showed me where I come from, but moving to Houston at 15, 16 showed me where I could go. And my dad, he was a reader, so he would always have me reading books. So it created creativity, made me imagine. Like even though I'm right here in the flesh, I like mentally I can be a million places, and all I got to do is just get there. So I think the thing that made it was those teen years was because of me moving around, me witnessing like my mom had a good job at one point, ran a daycare, and I'm getting all the clothes that I want, and I never had it growing up. And then her not having a daycare, and now I'm getting a job, and I got to figure it out and help with bills. And I just think the everything in my life cultivate um made me understand the world on a different level and different people. So I want to say it was my teen years that did it.
Well, it's so true. I mean, you hear that, or you read that who you become and your identity is people that you hang around with and the books and read, and you kind of, related to that. And, and we think of how do we get in those situations in those right rooms, that we're associating with that are looking towards our future, or the people who want to talk about the good old days or talk about how we hung out or talk about the video games that were played or and that kind of stuff. And so are there points that you could point to that kind of led you in a direction of a mindset of this winning or success or ownership and moving forward? Are there certain people that you've been able to hang around, or has it just been the things that you've read or or making sure you're interested in the right books and stuff?
I would say, it's a lot of moving parts when it comes to that. I would say I always had a winner's mentality. Just the neighborhood that I grew up in, it was like you had to take up for yourself, and if you don't, you lose, right? So I tell people like coming from where I come from, if you've made it to today, you got all the tools. You just don't know. You know what I mean? Like you got all the tools to be successful. You just don't even know. You have to tap into it. But I will say there are key people. Is like my brothers. They're older. They're 18 to 20 years older than me. So that like I'm 32. So them being 18, 20 years older than me created the sense of I got to catch up to my brothers for them to want me to include me. Right? They're eight. Like so, if I'm 20. My middle brother is 38. My other brother's 40. So I'm a 20-year-old trying to catch up to a 38 and a 40-year-old. Which realistically, I mean, you got some situations where it happened, but realistically, it's not. Like you even if it's maybe financially you get there, but you got to get the experience for that, right? Then I have a cousin. He's like a brother to me, and he's been in my life my whole life. So me and him, we grew up around each other. I grew up with his sister and him. I always just be over their house. He's 4 years older than me, so me and him always just kind of like we were close enough in age where we could hang out, but far enough in age where he could kind of guide me a little bit. So just going through our life, like just he's one of those guys that just a lot of people love, gravitate to, they appreciate, and he just gave me a lot of being 4 years older than me gave me a lot of gems and jewels to give me an opportunity to be 4 years ahead of myself. And then there's another person, my cousin. She's older. She's about 18 years older than me. She has a son that's my age. Her husband that they've been high school sweethearts all the way up to now, just happened to be the VP of Volkswagen Audi, or former VP of Volkswagen Audi. So I would spend a lot of time at their house because their son is my age, and we grew up together, and we get a lot of jewels. And then even their son, like their son, played a big part in who I am today. So my best friends, it's like that's why I say it's so many different people who create this who this person is right now. You know what I mean? So, life does it too. You can do so many different obstacles and things, but from my dad to certain cousins to my brothers to my mom to best friends, like all my friends I've known them since I was either 5 or 6 or 10 or 11 years old. And we've been friends ever since then. So like all these people make up the gumbo.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And I think about, when not only is there associations and there's people moving to like trust, and there's so many influences that tell us, you can only trust yourself. You can only trust, you know, a certain community of people. And, I think there's so often some of those reasons. And then, we see a generation growing where we say, well, you can't trust this or you can't trust that. You're black in America. And so you have to watch out in every aspect. How do you navigate that when and it sounds like the people in your life, that wasn't the issue, it wasn't the things that they were thinking about the most. You trust people first until they've lost your trust, or do you walk in cautiously to every situation, every relationship?
It's funny you say that. I legit I was legit right before we got on this call was thinking about trust and how do you trust people. So um it's funny because my all my cousins, with me being the youngest one, I used to believe everything that they said. So like they'll play little jokes on me and they all be in on it and I'll be the one that like growing up. So it made me be hesitant because even though it was jokes, it just made me be hesitant on what I believed. My dad was a very don't trust nothing type person. He was like, you will regret it when you trust things and you trust people, they let you down. So for me, what I've called it, like I was just thinking about everything that either showed trust in my life or untrustworthy. And I was like, well, the way to navigate moving forward would have to be not to trust people, but not to think that they are untrustworthy until they do something untrustworthy. Because when me and you could trust each other and we could get into you could tell me all your secrets, I can never tell it. But what if it's something you do to me that makes me think different and now I do stuff that you can't trust. I tell your secrets. I throw you under the bus. I move. I just move differently because I felt like maybe you didn't have my back this one time, or maybe you didn't look out for me. So now I move different. But you've trusted me your whole life. I've done everything. I never told on you. I never ratted you out about anything. I never stabbed you in the back. But you finally did something after 30, 40, 50 years.
and now I turn my back on you, or something happens to me in my life where I lose trust for people, so I stop being a trustworthy person as well. So I don't I don't say you could just trust people 100%. You could trust what they've done. That's it.
Trust the example, trust
Yeah.
their character, trust their values, trust their commitment. And you don't know that until you create a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until
It's
you
and I
so
know.
when I say that, how
No, I was gonna say it's like the movie. I want to say it's Good fellas. Have you ever seen the movie Goodfellas? So the boy doesn't rat when he's a boy. He doesn't rat on the family, so they bring him in. And then when he got older, he ratted on the family. So it's not that he was trustworthy all the way until he wasn't trustworthy anymore. So it's interesting to think about. Like just what causes people to not be trustworthy anymore, or not be
yeah.
trustworthy anymore. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so important. I mean, you don't do business with people you don't trust. You don't hang around people you don't trust. You don't, you hold people at bay, and yet you develop it. And people are going to always let you down, right? People are, people are people, and they're most of us look out for ourselves first, and then going to, and so that loyalty is something that you kind of almost have to guard. But at this time, you think about, our history, and you think about things that have come in the past. It can hinder you from moving forward if you're not willing to trust at all. Like you won't take risk, you won't do things as a result of not being able to trust. What are some of the things that you may do that help you to trust other people other than just watching what they do?
Um, just looking at their morals. Like if I'm not watching, all right, well, I left this here and they didn't steal it. But just looking at morals, how people act in adversity, how people treat other people. I know that's still watching people, but like, say if I'm I'll I'll say this, like the way you met me. What if I was just the janitor at that place, right? I would pay attention to the way you like. Will you treat the person that's on stage the same way that you treat the janitor? Are you are you honorable? Do you care about more than just than yourself? Because those things cause are actions of what creates trust. Because if you're honorable, then you won't be dishonorable. If you treat everybody fairly, then you won't treat people unfairly. If you treat people just as good as you do when you're up, as you do when you're down, or vice versa, then it doesn't matter the situation. It's just who you are. But if people change with situations, then it's like, can I trust you? Because I don't even know if this is really you.
Yeah. Oh no, that is so true. And to me, when I think of people who serve others, people who are willing to do the extra to make sure somebody's okay instead of serving themselves, is a huge indication of whether I can trust. Do they care about others? One of the prayers that I say to myself every day is, "Dear Lord, give me the wisdom in a way that pleases you and serves others." And so, one of the things when I saw you interact with people is it was during a time that you were shining. It wasn't the time that you were in front of the crowd trying to, produce a result or help them. This in the times when we were on break, in the times when people ask you questions, in the time that you would take time to be able to serve them in a way to help them. That really talks about your character, which really says to me,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I guess you could go off and be a serial killer, but at the same,
Nah, seriously.
you're serving
Nah, that's the
somebody.
same way I think.
I
I
don't,
be
I
looking
don't
at
think
people. I
those
be
two
like,
things can come together, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Does faith play any part in your belief system and the things that you do? Um, how do you integrate that into your life?
So I try not to go too deep because I know when it comes to religion, when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to faith, that's something that makes up people. And if you say anything outside of what they believe in, you offend what makes them up. So I try to stay away from it. I don't think I say anything offensive, but you never know what could be offensive. Like you've heard me say that too. Like you never know how you can offend somebody. So I will say I grew up in a excuse me, my fault. I will say I grew up in a household where my grandmother was Baptist, her children went to church, their children, which it would be me, the grandchildren, we all went to church. So um, I didn't go to church as much as all my rest of my family members. My dad was Catholic. Um, I kind of ventured off in my teens, but I always kept the spirit on my heart. So that's one thing that I never forgot or I never got rid of. So I can go outside and talk to those who don't believe. I can go inside and talk to those who that's all they believe, right? And they don't even question there's nothing else exists. So I will say the thing that I've kept dear to my heart is that it's always a higher being. There's always something higher, there's always something um bigger than me, you know. And when you really think about it, it has to be something that's more important than us. It has to be something that's in charge of the show for the simple fact. If have you looked at like a bug lately? This is gonna sound crazy, but have you looked
A
at a
bug.
bug lately? Yeah, like have you seen
I
it
haven't
like an
spent all
in
much time looking at bugs.
but have you seen an insect or a bug and it was like, oh, you're like just it's this little
Yeah, yeah.
like that's the way I feel to the universe. You know what I mean? And it was one day, and I don't do drugs or nothing, so I wasn't like shrooming out nothing or microdosing. But one day I was sitting there and I was like, man, I'm like, we're no different than bugs. We're no different than the DNA that makes us up. We make up the universe, and it got to be something bigger than that. Like it's got to be something bigger than us. So I've always had this in my spirit, in my mind, that it's something that connects me to the next person. So that's why when you say I move in service on stage and off stage, because I know every move that I make is affecting somebody else, whether I know it or not, or they know it or not.
Yeah, so I'd say when you talk about health, both physical and mental health, and you think about things that you need to do in order to protect your body, to protect your mind, uh, what are some of the things that you make sure are part of your uh, daily routine? I guess I would say that as far as health is concerned.
So I try to be as active as possible, rather it's going to the gym. I don't play many sports, so the gym is my thing. When it comes to, believe it or not, when it comes to mental health and physical health, when I go through stuff, I try to go. I'm not a boxer, so I'm not saying like I can box, but I try to go hit the punching bag. That's like to me that lets out some energy. It gets that anger out, and I can move accordingly without having secret anger or animosity inside of me, which clears my mental as well. Um, Another thing is like I try to connect with the earth a lot. So rather it's getting in the body of water or walking around outside, getting sun. I feel like a lot of us we've and not on purpose, I think we naturally, due to the pandemic, due to technology, we spend a lot of time inside, away from these natural things that help us be mentally and physically healthy and spiritually. So I try to just reconnect as much as I can. I try to put my phone down, talk to people, read books. I try to take a walk outside, a lap outside with my daughter. If I can go swimming, I go swimming. If I can jog, I jog. If it's stairs and elevators, it's even out to like this granular part. I'll take the stairs as long as I'm able, because I know one day I probably won't be able to, right? So I try to embrace it now.
Perfect. Couple of questions left. One is when we think about success and thinking about the things that we do on a daily basis. Like we know what we're supposed to do. Sometimes we don't do them. If you were to think about a daily or weekly or monthly routine that you do that sets you up for success, what are two or three of those things, or what you go through uh, as your thought process, then your doing process, to make sure you stay at the top of your game?
Wake up and pray. That's I don't do it every day, but sometimes, especially when I feel overwhelmed, I wake up and pray. Uh, if it's 7 days in a week, I probably do it 4 to 5 times, 4 days out the week. I wake up, just stop what I'm doing, clear my head. I'll when I sit down, I schedule out everything, whether it's the night before or the next day. So my whole week is scheduled out down to the T. So I'm like, I'm doing this at 8:30. I'm doing this at 10. I'm gonna be here at this time. I'm gonna be taking this call at this time, so that I get the satisfaction of crossing off my small goals as I do things. So praying every morning, having a schedule every morning, making sure that I invest into the real things. So like I know we can get caught up in the fake things, but I always try to when I leave the office, I call my mom. So this is something I didn't share with you, and you probably picked up on it the way I speak about my dad. I lost my dad last November. It was a week before his birthday. Yep. So it was about to be he would have been turning 66. And when I leave the office, I used to go to where he stayed and check up on him because he was in a situation where somebody had to be around him all the time, and it just declined in health. But he was always mentally there. So I would check on him like every 3 or 4 days out the week, then on the weekend. So now what I do is I try to call my mom on the way on my drive home just to have something real. I was just looking at this clip came across. It was Charlemagne and this comedian named Schultz or something. And they said after 18, parents don't see their kids as much as they used to. I think they said like only 20 times a year or 10 or 15 times a year. And I said, that's kind of sad because these are the people that make up most of your life. They've made you, they've been a part of your life. They're why you interact the way you do with people or why you don't interact the way you do with people comes from them. So like I make it an effort to call my mom. I make it an effort during the week to spend time with different family members or call them and reach out to them. So praying, schedule, and just tapping into reality, making sure I stay connected with it.
Do you purposely try to get into rooms that can enhance, your future, or with people, hang out with things intentionally?
I want to say no, but I'll say yes. I'll say yes for the simple fact like I train the way I do so that word can travel, but I'm not like I can walk into a room. You know my setting. I can walk into a room every day and sit next to a billionaire if I wanted to. You know what I mean? But that's that's why I wanted to say no because I'm not intentionally doing it. Like you seen Mateen came and spoke at when we were at our training. I didn't even know who he was. Me and him just hit it off because we were just both good people talking to each other. You know what I mean? So that wasn't my intention to get next to a former NBA player who just recently got inducted to the Hall of Fame. That was never my intention. When we got to talking, he was like, "You don't even know who I am." And I was like, "Man, I was telling my brother, like my brother that's 18 years older than me, he was in basketball too around the same time. Mateen was going to college, and he was like, "Man, you don't know who Mateen is?" I'm like, "No, I don't know." I'm like, "He just worked with me." He's like, "No, man, he's played for the Pistons, bro. They won the state." I'm like, "Oh," so I'm like, I told him he was like, "Man, it's cool, little bro." So I don't intentionally try to get in these rooms, but I think the intention in my work attracts those type of people. So so that's why I'll say
And it
that's
allows
why I
you to be
want to say
around and,
no,
and
but
lean
that's
into
why I
it.
say yes.
Yeah, that makes so much. Maybe things that I didn't discuss with you or we didn't get to talk about that you would say, if you would like to be successful, you'd like to take some clues from my. I know that's hard to say. Okay, like I'm some special person that you excel, but people I find is people latch on to personalities. People latch on to, if that person could do it, if that person can live this great life, I can. You give to somebody in your age bracket, 5 years before, 5 years after, 10 years span, that would help move the needle, because maybe they're sitting and they're going, this is hard getting up every single morning. It's hard going to work every single day. It's hard figuring out what I want to do with my life. What are some things that you would tell them that would help them to be able to move forward, to get on that journey where freedom is something
So I
that
got two
is
things.
doable, something that
I
is
got
gotcha.
I got two things. So I'm gonna say one thing that my mentor told me, just so it's not because I can give you what I think, and I just don't want it to be selfish. But I will give you what I think. But first, I'm gonna give you what my mentor told me. This is a guy, and just so when people hear this, they're not saying like, "Oh, this is just somebody's older homie." Like this is the guy that's the Volkswagen Audi former VP. This is the guy that flips real estate all across the country. He mentors people, train people. It just so happened to be my cousin-in-law, right? Um, he told me, he said, you got to choose your hard. And I was like, what you mean? He was like, you can get up and go to work every day and you can save money and you can diet and work out and be the best version of you. That's going to be hard. He was like, or you eat sloppy and be out of shape and don't go to work and be late on the bills and don't show up in your daughter's life and she can hate you, but that's still going to be hard. So he was like, choose your hard. He was like, choose your hard, little cuz, whatever you want to do. That's choose that hard. And I'm like, dang, I was like, I like that, so it stuck with me. I'm like, whatever route I take is gonna be hard, but my thing is I personally tell people this because I have a lot of conversations and people always like, man, you're such an inspiration. You got your clothing brand, you do the mortgage real estate stuff and you do all of these things. And like people don't even know all the things that you do. They only know just this little bit. Like I could never get up and start that, or I can never do. I'm like, yes, you can. Like, as long as the reason I do what I do is because I know that I'm able, right? I'm able to walk. I'm able to touch. I'm able to talk. I'm able to think. I'm able to see. So as long as I'm able, I'm gonna try to do it. Because once I'm not able anymore, I can't do it. So we don't like, and the thing that motivates me most is that, and I I've realized that a lot of people haven't lost a lot of people. I've lost a lot of people to this thing called life and death, right? At an early age. Both my grandmothers passed by the time I was 16. Lost a cousin to cancer. He was in his late 30s. Lost two little cousins. One got killed around the corner. One just uh his health failed him. His dad passed away. He didn't wake up. Like it's just so many different people that I lost. Losing my dad, losing like I had a span where I lost 7 people back to back, including my dad within the last year. And the thing that motivates me, like it hurts to think about those things, but the thing that motivates me is like now I gotta live for them. They believed in me so much that if I give up, what was the purpose of their life? What was the purpose of the energy that they put into me? I failed them as well. So like, if I don't do it for nobody, if I can't do it for myself, at least I can do it for them because they can't do it at all, right? So that's like those are the things that make me get up and like, if I had nothing else, if I didn't have a dollar, if I didn't have the drive or the ideas to do what I want to do, at least I know these people left so I could continue to go. They put the energy into me, their spirit is with me, and I'm gonna keep on driving and building. So like if I ain't had nothing else, at least I got that thought in my head.
That's really good. That is really good to think about. I'm doing it not just for the people that I'm serving. I'm doing it because the people put into me, fed into me. What kind of person would I be if I didn't take do something with it? They spent their time, their energy, their money in many cases to make me a greater person. Now, how do I take that and make sure that that legacy is what I leave to my kids?
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's awesome. Well, perfect. Well, is there anything else that you would love to share before we close this up today? Or
The one thing that I will say, and I mean people can follow me on social media, J period Gueringer. So that's J dot Gueringer, J in a period, Guer Ringer on Instagram. You can find my clothing brand on gptribe.com. If you got mortgage real estate questions, you can reach out to me on my Instagram. But I will say this is the one thing that like I say this in all my trainings. I say this wherever I go because I know this is definite. life gets hard, life gets tough, but you get tougher. You know, it sounds cheesy, and it's like it is what it is. But that's the thing that makes me like. It goes back to like me working out, right? Like when I'm in the gym, your muscles tear down, you feel weak, but you actually getting stronger. You know, so that's why I say like life gets tough, but you get tougher. When things like if you play sports, you know it's to win that championship is not easy. If you run a business to hit those goals, it's not easy. If you get up and go to work or be a parent, like being a parent isn't easy. So life will get tough, but you only get tougher. And when you look back in the past and all the tough obstacles you overcome, it made you tougher. That's it. So that's what I want to live with the people if I don't leave nothing else.
Oh, I love that because it goes right along with choose your hard, along with, as I prepare for what I'm going to live, let's say 10 more years, no matter what, right? How am I going to live those 10 years? Am I going to get better? Be around the people? Am I going to get stronger? Or am I going to allow life to happen to me? Or am I going to go out and attack it? So I love that. I love that thought process. The fact that folks can go. I'm getting ready, in February next year. I'm going to take a group of people down to Alabama. We're going to go do a civil rights tour. We're going to do a whole bunch of pre-work before. We're going to do a whole bunch of pre-work after. Right? We want to learn from what our folks that came before us did and what they went through. But like you said, it's not to just this is what they did. They did it so we could have better lives. And if we don't take advantage of that, and if we don't grow, if we don't get educated, if we don't feed ourselves, you also talked about, what is it that we put in that's real? So many people will come home and they'll watch TV, watch, I guess, like I love actors that do a really good job of acting. And I love actors that continue to do that. And so one of the things that I want to make sure is that they're doing for pretend, and how do we make it real? Go through. We lost him, and I don't know if he's going to be able to come back on. So if he is not, what a great show. Thank you, Julian, for being on the show. Thank you for part of the Journey to Freedom brand. Thank you for being part of the Journey to Freedom, things that we do in the future. And I hope you'll come back on. And as you grow and as your life gets better, I hope you'll come on and talk to us about it. So have a wonderful, awesome, this incredible day. For the folks that are still here that are watching, and I can't wait to talk to you on the next time. Have a great day.